Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining One House Productions as we bring you dramatic interpretations of Mary Healey's poetry from her newly published anthology, Just Under the Skin. I have been familiar with and really enjoyed this poet's work for many years, finding it resonates with me and I can connect immediately. During the pandemic, One House has taken on many new and different types of projects. Recently, dramatic interpretations of new and original mysteries. What better way to showcase Mary's poetry? Christopher, the poet, and I worked on choosing which poems to include, and believe me, it was not an easy task. Every unique poem in the anthology is a standout and a standalone. In line with our mission statement, welcoming all to hone their craft, we have included different levels of performers. And for this event, we wanted to reach out to individuals who had not participated in any of our previous projects. It was then that I realized I was not the only one who got the poetry. Every performer was thrilled with their final piece and offered just as unique of a presentation as the poem itself. Mary Healey is a minimalist poet. Her work has been published in Long Island Sounds, Writing Outside the Lines, Whispers and Shouts, and Long Island Quarterly. She has hosted monthly readings at the North Village Bookshop, Hicksville Library, and Wild Child Tattoo Parlor. She has participated in the August Poetry Postcard event for the past 6 years and has taught a workshop on postcard poetry. She has also featured and hosted in person and online for Walt Whitman Birthplace. Now, get ready. You guys are going to love this. Get ready to enjoy One House Productions' dramatic interpretations of selections from Just Under the Skin.
I should have been safe with you. No promises made. It's not like that, you said. Follow me, but your choice. Caution, my heart shouted, it fell on deaf ears. Wrapped in a bow, I gave it all to you. Unfolded my clasped hands to reveal nothing, just as you promised.
Warm summer day, crisp white linen suit, guard down. Slowly, she walks into the house. Her father was a patient drunk. "Where have you been?" he shouted. Before she could speak, he went to work on her. She lay still, stained, red, bleeding into white. That night was the last night Alice carried 19 years in 3 bags.
Now that's just a lie. After Cinder and the prince skipped off to their new duplex, leaving her 2 stepsisters in the dark, that's where the story begins. The thin stepsister moved to Colorado to open a medical marijuana dispensary. The fat stepsister carried all the guilt and shame of never being able to fit into the glass slippers. Feet so large, her shoes were custom made. Looking down at her feet one day, she had enough. Made appointments for pedicures, derma peels, callus reductions, cryotherapy, and finally, foot surgery. Now the fat stepsister wears Jimmy Choo's, Gabbana's, Louis Vuitton knockoffs. She started to see the woodsman, who lives in a Levitt house down the lane. They fell in love, married in the fall, and they lived happily ever after. Until the first pregnancy. Her feet blew up like balloons, and that's just the beginning.
A halo of laundry spins over you. while keyhole prayers fall on deaf ears. You line your pocket with free labor, Ireland's unwanted throwaways, girls and women given to you with promises of education and training. Oh. The nuns, the wardens, your wardens, with rosaries and heavy hands, ran your laundry for profit with pain, cloaked in religion.
Chestnut hair, baby-faced, 17 grown-up years, drawn to the city, a fresh start, escaping family DNA, a harsh keepsake. Life savings spent on bus fare and rent, job progression, counter help, waitress, stripper, slowly swallowing dreams. Justify, compromise, shame, swept into darkness, promise and youth refrigerated, waiting to be identified.
Whew. You bring back chopstick memories. Parked in a red station wagon, driving through Harlem, down past the Apollo Theater, past the Afro store, rows of afros adorned on white styrofoam heads. The last one, always a rainbow. Parked in front of the Chen Chen, large round tables, eating Asian family style. Dad taught us all how to use chopsticks. Lazy Susan hubs each table, blue rice patterned dishes laid out, hot pickled soup, a moo shu pork, dumplings, mapo tofu, hot shredded beef, and sweet and sour chicken. Before our eyes closed, swimming from the weight of this banquet, presented with the check, a white plate with fried bananas, dipped in sweet syrup. On our way home, crossing the bridge, the New York skyline, miniaturized, laying under my lips, with a sweet memory on my tongue.
You are my pearl, a grain of sand at the back of my throat, nurtured, rough edges smoothed, nested under my tongue, bedded in the ocean. Sun to moon, and again. Seaweed drifts the time. Currents change. I am harvested, forced open. You are cut from my comfort to rest upon the skin of another.
Bravo, everybody. That was really just the beginning. I would like to now introduce you to the poet, Mary Healey. Thank you, Mary. Thanks for allowing One House to work with your poetry. I'm going to actually give you the floor.
No, that's all right. You don't have to do that. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone, everyone that did all of this. It's just amazing. There's nothing like, well, I shouldn't say that. I've never had this before. To have your own words come back to you, to see performers acting out your words. I mean, everyone that put this all together, it just blows me away. It honestly, when you write, you never think that or when you do your art, you never know where it's going to lead, what it's going to do. And to see this, it's just amazing. And I was thinking too, when Deb asked me to read one of these, I wasn't sure about it. Now, I've read them a lot, performed them, but to have to read this as an acting, you think, well, it's so easy to do. It's just, you're just saying your words back that you wrote these words. And I'm going to tell you that it took me 15 tries to say this poem. It's very complex to have to do this. And when you give your words up to other people to see how they see it, and it makes it different, it makes it new and refreshing. It blows me away. It's wonderful. When I first started writing, I worked with Debbie, actually she and with Chris, and I would hide my poetry like in between paperwork in files and stuff so that nobody could see that I was doing it. And I always wound up somewhere like it falling out of paperwork and people finding it, but it was great. The woman, I was thinking back too, that the woman who wrote the screenplay to Juno, she worked for Geico, and for the longest time, she did it at work. She used to hide it in her blotter and stuff while she wrote it. So, but it's nice. It's nice to see your work. I it's been a while since I started writing, and I always wanted to put a book together. And during the pandemic, I finally decided that it was time to do it. And when Deb had asked me to do, she offered to do this for me. I was so on board with it. I was so excited. And to see it to come to life is just amazing. And to be able to share it with everyone, there really is no words. And I don't want to get upset about it because that's silly, but it's so exciting, and to share it with all of you makes it even more special. And I just say thank you. I really it just blows me away. And I have to keep talking because I have to. Because there'll be dead air if I don't. So help me out, Deb.
I'm right here for you, Mary, no problem. When we got the book, like I said earlier, we had done some interpretive readings of some stories. And when I got your book, I said to Christopher, this is just perfect. And I already had people in mind, and I reached out to them, and they were all on board. And you think people didn't know that you hid stuff under your work? We knew. We all knew. You weren't hiding anything, but we always appreciated your poetry. And I'm honored to be your friend, and I'm honored to do this for you. And I'm thrilled that you published this anthology. And I think that we should listen to the next group. Listen and watch the next group. Okay?
Yes.
Great.
Eighth grade. Dieting. At parents' request. Lunchtime. Lame paper bag. Or golden brown fried knish. A plastic knife cuts. Steam rises from soft potato filling. Having a 14-year-old palate, I dig into ketchup. With the last bite, I notice black spots. Oh my God. I'm I've been poisoned. I'm going to die. I lie in the ER. My parents stand over me. Mom cries softly. I whisper, I cheated. Friends and family break down at funeral at the cemetery, gathering round my headstone to read. They were peppercorn, stupid.
It was a clear, crisp autumn evening, the silky sky bulging with stars, a full moon shimmering on the lake. I dressed all in black, wearing the pearls he gave me. He wearing the kitchen knife I gave him, slowly bobbing, breaking the sheen on the lake, gurgling as he sank. And they say cheating isn't an art form.
The only gift she carried, holding a single silver bullet to stop her wolf. Each night he returned, pounding on their cottage door, bathed in a scent of whiskey and town. She lay still next to him, fists at her side, tattooed with his love. That morning, birds quietly peered into the window. This time, he lay still, matted in red. A single silver bullet, tattooed with love on his heart.
Under the waxing crescent moon, lunar module, Grumman built half-mile from our Hicksville home. We waited, huddled around a portable Sony black and white TV attached to a long gray extension cord on a picnic bench. Mom, my sisters and brothers without pushing or shoving, watched as Neil Armstrong stepped down from that lunar module on the fine dust of the moon's surface, the spell broken by the bells of the Good Humor Man. As I licked my lemon sherbet, I took Dad's binoculars to take a closer look. Standing in the street with my 10-year-old eyes, I pinky swear I saw him.
On the front porch, Mr. sits, waiting for his weekend shave. Mrs. fumbles, collecting her props. Water-filled basin, cup of warm soap lather, straight razor. The screen door slams shut. "For God's sakes!" Mr. shouts. Mrs. sets down her trinity, fingers the new pearl necklace, another apology gift. Mrs. recoils, catching her reflection. Her hand shakes for the first time. With one sharp sweep, everything stands motionless, swelling in size with passing seconds. A row of ruby beads appears on Mister's throat. Mrs. tears the gift from her neck. Pearls scatter across the floor.
Fall brushes color aging maple trees. A large box wrapped with a lapis bow. He hands her a gift. Digging through white tissue, her fingers feel soft fur. Jumping to her feet, she hugs the coat. A thick amber shade with 5 golden buttons. Dove clouds part sapphire sky. They cuddle under the coat's warmth. He loves watching her wear the gift. Seems to fit better. How she loves her coat reflection. Inside or out, she wears the coat. A distance grows between them. He wants to say something. He's a timid man with love-frosted eyes. She wears the coat to bed. He dreams of her alabaster skin. The coat tightens. She takes long walks alone. Her sable eyes no longer hold his reflection. Emotionless dark saucers. They barely speak. At night, he sleeps alone in their bed. One morning he confronts her. You must choose the coat or me. Stroking her sleeve, she turns away. He leaves the cottage. Winter chills the air, walking for hours. He grows to regret his harsh words as evening wind pushes him home. He calls to her. The cottage is empty. On the steps lie 5 golden buttons.
Hello, Christopher. Mary, for our next segment, Christopher will be asking you some interview questions. I'm gonna leave you two.
Hello, Christopher.
Hello, Mary, and congratulations on the book. Mary, the book is beautiful, it looks beautiful, and the poetry is beautiful, and you should be very, very proud. It really is a wonderful thing. Mary, as Deb said, I was there in the beginning, I guess, when you got started. So I know when you started. I wasn't really sure how and why you got started in this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. After my dad died, I was spending more time at the Farmingdale Library. I happened to come in and they were having a workshop on a poetry and writers workshop. And it was sort of interesting. So I sat in on it, and I went home and I wrote my first 3 poems for the next week, and that's how it started. And I just liked the idea of it, and it wasn't something that I never thought I would do, but it's something that I've really gotten to enjoy doing.
Had you written anything before that? Anything creative, stuff in school, or?
I had written stuff for me. I'd written a couple of short stories and stuff, but I never really did anything with it. It was never something that was something that I was interested in. I never followed through with it. I was leaning more towards acting and that type of thing.
Gotcha. And now I know you spend a lot of time writing poetry. Do you write anything other than poetry currently?
No, not really. I more write. I kind of stick to poetry. Yeah.
Good. Do you, what is your writing process like? Do you set aside some time and say, all right, now I'm going to write some poetry, or do things just come to you and you'll run and grab a pad and write something down? How does that work?
I have a workshop every 2 weeks with a bunch of other poets, and I do a lot of writing for that, but it's usually like last minute, where you have to, it's sort of like, in school when you're like, you have to study for a test and something like that, and all of a sudden you've got an hour before your class, or for me it's the workshop. It's like I wait till the last minute to write the poem for our workshop, and that's usually how it starts. And then afterwards, after our workshop, writing with after getting some ideas. And a lot of times too, if I haven't written in a couple of days, it's sort of like volcanic, and it just flows. Or somebody might say something, like you and I might be speaking, and then all of a sudden it gives me an idea of something. And I carry a lot of 3x5s with me, and what I'll do is I'll just write them down, the ideas and stuff like that, and then I go back to it later.
Nice, nice. Do you have some influences in the poetry world? People that you really admire?
I admire. I really like Emily Dickinson. She's one of my favorites. I like a lot of modern poets. Walt Whitman is but there's a lot of influences, which is nice. A lot of modern people, a lot of a little historical. It's always been sad for me because after my dad died, my dad used to collect first edition books, and he was a big reader. I never liked to read when I was a kid. I had severe dyslexia, and it was always hard for spelling, and so it was very frustrating. So after he died, I started looking at some of his bookcases, and he has all these poets that have written all these different books. Carl Sandburg, Robert Frost. He has all these books autographed to him that he collected them. I guess during his life, when he was younger, he started collecting first editions, and he would send them back to the authors and have them sign them. He's Dorothy Parker, that type of thing. And when I read the one with Frost, it was really sad because I thought to myself, he died before I could ever share my poetry with him. So it was always, a thing.
And he was doing that pre-internet. He was writing letters in longhand and
yeah. And what he would do is, and he has presidents, he has different people. In fact, Eisenhower sent him he wrote an autobiography, and when they delivered the book to him, because he had written a letter, he would send them a letter and the book, and they would send it back to them. And when they sent the book back, they sent it. Somebody actually physically brought it to him from the president.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, but like with Frost, he had met him in Florida, and it was the first edition of the Road Less Traveled, and he wrote a little bit of a poem for him inside too.
That is very, very cool. I would like to see that one of these days.
I'll share it too, of course.
Cool. Mary, I know you've done a little bit of teaching too. You've dabbled in that. Do you enjoy that? Is that something you want to do more of, or?
I like that a lot. I like that you're able to, take anything and make it interesting that people want it. Because when you hear poetry, I mean, for most people, it's like sticking a poker in their eye. They're like, it's just remotely uninteresting. But for a lot of people, you take a subject, or like postcard poetry, where you can make it interesting. It's small enough, and then people get enjoyment out of writing and reading it and talking about it. It's on so many different levels. It makes it interesting. I also like hosting because you're able to promote poetry for other people, for them to read, to enjoy it. It's very important. Poetry is, it's old and it's wonderful, and it's obtainable to everyone. And you can write as minimalistic as I can, or I write, to elaborate poetry. And it's just, and there's always on some level the understanding of it to make it universal, and it's just a wonderful thing.
I agree. I really like it because it's not a big time commitment to write a poem. You can say so much in just a few lines.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. I love the idea that people can take different things from it. I had one of my favorite poems I wrote for my mom, and it's called Mother's Love. And I remember when I had read it at Farmingdale, and this was just my first year or two, and it was this one woman that I used to work. She was a moderator of it. It was and I had read the poem, and I was like, "Oh, mommy, how I love your golden reflection." And this one was like, "Oh, how beautiful! You wrote this wonderful poem about your mom." And as I progress in the poem, I tell them, that a simple push, slippery stairs, like my mother will fall to her death and I will mulch her in the garden and no one will know about it. And I'll wear her gold jewelry. And I remember the woman being so shocked that every time she saw me after that, she just would shake her.
She cringed.
Yeah. I was like, I told you.
Mary, if a young person came to you and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting started in poetry," what kind of advice would you have for that person?
I would say to try to take a look at something online where you could listen to someone else read, someone, in a voice that you might enjoy, taking, because there's so many things now after, well, before pandemic, but now even more so, where you can see so many famous poets mostly for free, and you can hear their words, and you can really get an idea of lots of different talent, all these different poets, and to read. You can read online. You do not have to buy the book. You can. There's so many different things that you can do, and there's so many ways to do it. And that I would start with just going online and just listening to different poets read.
Mary, in your book, one of my favorites and one of the ones that really touched me was Maggie. And I wasn't familiar with the Magdalen laundries in Ireland before that. How did you become aware of that? It's a sad story.
It's a really sad story because it was for such a long period of time. I mean, and I had originally heard about it. I'd seen a thing on PBS in the 90s. They had done a thing about it, and I remember watching it. Then I went back and I started reading some stuff on it, a couple of books on it, and I was so shocked. And I remember I talked to my mom about it, and I said, I can't believe it. The Irish did these horrible things to their own people, and just like any other culture, it's not shocking, but it was a horror. It really was. And people could actually turn their women, their daughters, their wives over to these laundries, and it was like a servitude. It's really horrible.
It really is, and this is pretty recent in history. It's crazy.
In the 90s, stop, but it was for the longest time, and you were just you were part of their, you were sold right into their, you stayed there forever.
Yeah.
No matter, and pregnancies, if they felt you were, fast, or had too much to say, any levels of things, your family could sell you, put you into one of these areas.
Well, that one really touched me, and Mary did a great job with that one, getting that across. Mary, I'm sorry. Go.
I was going to say that. I said to Deb, I said, wow, she's Irish. That's so cool to have it matched up. And Deb's like,
and she's not.
Not. You're an idiot, Mary. She's not.
Mary, last question for you. Is there going to be a volume 2 coming?
Yes. Right now I'm in the middle of writing a book about house plants and poison, like how people can poison people with plants and the different poisonous plants and everything. I'm doing it. Part of it's scientific and part of it just, the folklore of it. It's just wonderful. Trying it out on never mind. I can't speak any more about that. My mom, I couldn't say that.
Mary, you do know this is going to remain on the internet for the rest of time.
I know. No more rhubarb salads, Mom. Obviously, he's still alive, so I'm not doing that great a job.
Mary, thank you so much. And everybody enjoy our final group of poems.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Leaping over buildings. You could break a hip. X-ray vision. Can you say prescription eyewear? My red cape. It's in the dry cleaner. Constipation. Now that's an enemy. And don't get me started on kryptonite. And the women? I'm just too tired. Fighting crime is a younger man's game.
Welcome to my clutterless home. Fabric matched curtain and chairs. Candy dish filled. Apron tight, I walk this linoleum floor. From my pink satin slip to my aqua knitted hair flip. Pledges mop and glow ready. But don't look too close. Steam cleaned and slip covered, void of temporary indiscretions, my couch holds its tongue. Understands the lonely hours from morning coffee till the paycheck comes home. But a girl has needs. The ones you close the curtains for. No need to blush. We all have couch secrets.
Seeing you from this vantage, that familiar blue shirt, my breath slightly labored, I lean close, ears filled with your words. I've brushed against you many times. At first, you ignored my advances, but soon recognized my intent. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, poetry readings, restaurants, classrooms, against the broken fence, outside your family home. Now, all from a distance, as per the restraining order.
Midday you appear. Not werewolf, not man, lying on the shores of Vegas, donning your gold lame speedo, garnished chain hangs low across your breasts. Sweat emanates from large pores and pools under lounge chair. Chlorine and coconut scent. Perfumes, sultry air. Stomach leans forward, sitting up you. Snug your speedo anatomy. Slips out. You stand to correct. Golden speedo intake. You walk past me. And wink.
She stood at her sink, running cool water over breakfast. Each got their own bath, returned to the large white bowl. With a worn paring knife, skin and pit removed. Yellow crescents filled each dish. I watched as the juices ran over her aged hands with sugar or cream. Breakfast ready. My brothers and sisters sat around my grandmother's table, plotting our summer days.
I will die here, in this fitting room, unable to remove this size 18 dress from over my head. No one can save me. I will live off 6 wintergreen Tic Tacs, 1 expired Kind Bar, and 3 sticks of mint gum. When my body is found with minty sweet breath, Newsday will do a cover story piece warning about the dangers of trying on clothes that just don't fit.
No connection between us. I closed the door. We sit opposite. The language of time. Wounds, drains, swelling. Sometimes we chat. Share war stories. She takes off her blouse. She is a lumpectomy. She is a bilateral. She is a radical. Always a mastectomy. She is old. She is young. It is her first. It's been 20 years. Pink tape measure, pen, and file. We start. I can do it by eye, but professionalism for comfort. New bra dressed. She tries on form. Tear, triangle heart. Too much flesh here. Not enough there. Form secure in pocket. She dresses. Sitting, I chat. Size, color, nipple. Together we'd wade through. Cost, insurance, responsibility. Policy, paperwork, privacy. She stands, faces a mirror wall, swallows hard. All the doctors, medicine, surgery to this. A silicone breast, pocketed in a bra. Under her blouse. For comfort. For balance. For normal.
Excellent, excellent, everybody. I have a huge, huge round of applause for everyone. Great, great job. I did want to just quickly say, those have just been a sampling of the poetry in Just Under the Skin, which is available for purchase on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Lulu.com. Now, for this portion of our program, I wanted to invite all the performers back, Mary, Christopher, and just talk about how the night went. I can see if there are any, if anybody has any questions, you can put them on our YouTube page. How does everybody feel?
That was awesome. That was great.
Wonderful.
Mary, how do you feel?
Wonderful. I loved it. I'm without words, which is rare.
Well, what's funny to me is that as you all know, because we spoke about it a little bit, we know Mary, and as you can all tell, she tries to be very harsh, and some of these poems are in that vein. One of my favorite poems is The Day I Lost My Boyfriend, which is why I chose to do that one, because it's just such a maddening, you know, I wore my pearls and he wore the kitchen knife, and, you know, he's in the lake, even though we're in love.
As your husband, I
Yes.
thought you were a little too comfortable reading that.
But you also saw, and you also see in some of the poetry, the contrast that is Mary Healey, because in her intro to her own discussion, she was brought to tears, because that is a big part of her, a big heart. And I think she's able to find a lot of humor in some of her pieces. But then we also have the realistic pieces, middle-aged, very realistic. I mean, funny, but realistic. The Maggie story, as Christopher brought up, the Button story, you know, marriage isn't always what it seems. My favorite poem, I think we might have had a little glitch in the thing, but Jill, My Clean Couch is, and you were amazing. That poem to me is just, and I have to tell you, Jill and I went to college together, and in my head, the minute I read that poem and I was thinking about interpretations, I said, I hope that Jill is up for this because, and it was amazing. But I want to thank everybody that I reached out to, just kind of grabbed it and said, yes, let's do it. And hey, Anthony, and I'm just, I'm really thrilled that it went off as well as it did. And my other thought is that I think we have 20 more to do, so I'm gonna take a look at some more, and we'll have to talk. But now Mary's writing another anthology. But I don't see any questions. But I was wondering if Mary kind of voiced her opinion. If any of you might want to just express how different it is. First of all, to maybe do a dramatic interpretation of a poem as opposed to a monologue or a play or anything about the experience that you had. Anyone?
I'll start. I mean, I haven't done anything like this in the longest time. You know, I'm a singer-songwriter, so that, you know, you do a certain thing when you're up on stage, like you were saying earlier, Mary, like doing your own stuff that you wrote, you know, the context, right? But I felt a big responsibility, like when I was practicing and rehearsing, I'd be like, no, that's a the and a of, and just to be true to every single word you wrote, you know, which I think it felt like I didn't want to mess it up because the poem was so amazing, you know, and I loved every minute of it. I was nervous as hell, even in my own living room, but, you know, it pushed me out of my comfort zone, which I've been in since the pandemic started. So thank you for your wonderful work.
It was wonderful. Thank you for doing it. It was wonderful. I know that you like great words, Mary. My catharsis is at my heels, but thank you.
John?
When Debbie asked me to do this, I was kind of hesitant. I'm not good at poetry. I'm not. Acting is fine. Poetry is another thing. Mary, your words are beautiful. And it gave me a chance. The one that Debbie had selected for me was the Superman thing. And I had gotten to play the Man of Steel many years ago in a production in the city. And this just brought back so many great memories. And it was so much fun. I want to thank you, Mary, for the lovely words and the fun words. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
I just want to say I'm going to reiterate what John said. When it comes to poetry, I never got it all through, you know, school. I shy away from it. I shy away from Shakespeare. So when Deb asked me to do this, for a split second, I kind of shied away from it. But she said, read it, you'll see it's not, you know, it's poetry that you'll understand. And boy, did she pick the perfect piece for me. She really knows everybody.
I have to be honest, Christopher did help me with some of the selections, but a majority of them, when I read the poems, the people that I picked came to mind right away.
Yeah.
And that's how I tried to word the, you know, the emails. They're not very long. They're unique. They're simple.
Yeah, they were wonderful.
Yeah,
really
but to the point.
Pieces.
And whenever someone read it, they were happy with it. And I think the work is amazing. And thesaurus or not, Mary, it's really lovely work. And I'm not the only one that thinks that.
I'm so glad I was able to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next.
Hey.
One of the things that struck me, and all the pieces that I heard and all the ones that I've read, I read the whole book. It was amazing. The imagery that few short lines put together brings such strong, such vivid tones, such vivid messages. It really, it hits you not only here, but here as well, because you're so enraptured in it. You're so drawn in. And as someone who tends to be more on the outside of things as a director and not really necessarily always on stage, I looked at it from that angle and said, okay, what is she saying here? And what are the pictures that come to my mind? And they were just like right here. They were right here the whole time. And it was just a sheer joy. And hearing everyone tonight, it was a joy to be part of it. And I'm thrilled. Deb, thank you.
You're
Mary,
welcome.
thank you for your words, as everyone has said, but they are truly magnificent.
Thank you so much.
It was a fun thing to do. And I had never heard of the Laundries, but I had seen the movie Philomena. So I don't think it was one of the Magdalene Laundries, but it was the same kind of thing. And when I read Maggie, it just was so powerful, but I had a hard time because I'm very director reliant, and to self-direct was a challenge. But then I thought, I think that I'm talking to a young seminarian and I'm explaining something. He has said, what were the Laundries? I don't understand. And I had been through the Laundries. And so as I'm explaining it to him, it just got more powerful to me. It was something. Thank you.
Yeah, it is something. And it's true. Marilee and I have done shows together where we do have our Irish accents, and people have mistakenly said, because Mary did ask me, oh, you found someone Irish to do that. And I'm like, well, kind of.
I love that.
Marilee and I have been dancing at Lunasa, very Irish together. So that is also fun. Anthony, thoughts?
No, I mean, I loved it. I read through, the one that you gave me was great. I immediately connected with it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
So did my cat, apparently.
I know, the cat is fun.
She loves it. But no, I read the whole book because when you asked me to write the song, which I didn't realize you were going to play 1,000 times in a row, I would have made it longer.
Wasn't quite sure how long it would be. We learn with these Zoom things. So I apologize in advance for anything that, kind of wasn't perfect. We try so hard and we try so many different things, but we're all live people. We all want to do live things, whether it's live music or poetry readings or, being on stage. And Joanne, thoughts? You're muted.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love her poetry. I love the poem you gave me to read. It had a lot of meaning. We interpreted it differently. And when you told me how to do the ending the way, I guess, Mary wanted it, I saw it that way too.
Yeah.
Where I thought she was angry before, and then you said, no, she regrets that their relationship has gone that way. Then I understood.
Yeah.
That she wasn't angry. She was just felt bad that it didn't work out the way she had planned.
Things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I love your poetry. Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you.
But really, I mean, I can say, and I tried to say to everyone, and Christopher and I talked about it, when we did the dramatic interpretations for the mystery, it was almost the same thing. I had to explain to everyone, I have a different vision of it. I wanted something different. I don't want you just to read a poem. I don't want you just to read a story. I want you to interpret it a little bit. And it's kind of a different take on it. And it can be a little overwhelming, but once you get going, I mean, Marshalls, we redid our whole basement, so I could be in a dressing room, because once you're there and you know what you want to happen, it's a lot of fun. And I think I have to thank each and every one of you, because each and every one of you that grabbed a poem and ran with it did such amazing, wonderful things with it. Really, I couldn't have directed those that way. You guys all, as the poems were coming in, Christopher and I would look at them and be like, holy shit, that's good. And then we'd pass it on to Mary, and then she'd text me and say, holy shit, that's good. And then we'd get another one and we'd put it in the drive, and she'd say, did you see that last one? Yes. And I mean, Christopher, comments?
Yeah, really, it was everybody did a wonderful job with the readings, and the source material is very powerful, but you guys really did a great job of the interpretations. And like Deb was saying, we didn't want people to just read the poem, but we wanted you to be the poem, and you did.
Yeah, you did.
I think too that to that thought, it's like each one of them, each person that did their piece, it was amazing, because it was like unwrapping a piece of candy, and you're like, oh wow. And when you first see it, because you read it one way, you see it one way, and to see another person's interpretation of it, and to see them see these words, and it's just, I love that. I think that made it more powerful, and for them to do it on, each person to do it on their own that way, it was amazing. It really was amazing.
I have to say, Mary, we did enjoy that, Mary, because there were things we would watch a tape, and then Mary would say to me, did you see the way that she clicked her ring on the coffee glass? That's you, Jill. It was at a certain point when you were talking about and then she said to me, did you see the way John, and every piece that came through, I just happened to remember we talked about the clicking of the ring on the coffee cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. But every single piece that came through, we would find these little gems, like real fabulous little gems that just really brought the thing to life. As Kate said, there's so much imagery in the work, and it's I can't even describe your work, Mary, because it's simple, but it's so precise. Every little word just makes a huge difference. And Jill was saying the same thing. I want every word to get right, because some of the poems are very short, but they tell a huge frigging story. So within that tiny poem is so much. So that is a joy for an actor to take. Paradox, that tiny poem, there's so much behind that. There's been pain, it's just insane, every single poem. So I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say that we thank you, Mary, we thank you for your work. So keep doing it, and
it's like a good quilt. It's the thread, it's the material, it's the batting, it's all of this, and it works together. It really does. And it was everyone did a wonderful job. I can't tell you. I think it sucks that it's over.
So then we'll have to think about another project. I have some things in the works, but we'll think about another project. It is so nice to see all of you. Thank you for, joining the project. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for going out of your way to do a wonderful, wonderful job. I couldn't be happier. I love you all. Thank you, Mary.
Likewise.
And say goodbye to our audience. We had tons of listeners, and I hope they enjoyed it. So I'm actually going to stop the live stream, but we can, say goodbye. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.